In today's video, we are going to explore the concept of carbon footprints and examine why they are so difficult to measure accurately, how we might go about reducing them, and why doing so often proves challenging in real-life situations. When we talk about a carbon footprint, we are referring to the total quantity of carbon dioxide gas along with other greenhouse gases that are emitted throughout the complete life cycle of something. That something could be a physical product like your mobile phone, a service such as international air travel, or even a large-scale event like a music festival or sporting tournament. The value of understanding the carbon footprint of these things is that it gives us a clearer picture of their environmental impact, which in turn helps us make better, more informed decisions about whether or not those product, services, or events are worth the environmental cost. It also helps identify which parts of a process or activity produce the most pollution so that we can focus our efforts on reducing emissions in those key areas. However, despite these benefits, actually measuring a carbon footprint in detail is extremely difficult and in some cases virtually impossible to illustrate this. Let's take a relatively simple example like your smartphone. To calculate its carbon footprint, we would need to consider numerous different factors, such as how the raw materials like lithium and rare earth metals were extracted and transported, the energy and processes used to manufacture the phone, including assembling all its components, the total amount of electricity it consumes during its usage over several years, and eventually how it is disposed of, recycled, or dumped at the end of its life. In addition to all of that, there are also several hidden or indirect sources of emissions that are easily overlooked, such as the greenhouse gases produced while transporting parts from country to country, or the energy used to support software servers and data centers that the phone connects to during its use. Even if we acknowledge that calculating all this perfectly is unrealistic, making a rough estimation can still be incredibly valuable since it allows us to identify and compare which items, activities, or systems are causing the greatest harm to the environment. Once we know where the majority of emissions are coming from, we can begin to create effective strategies to reduce them. One straightforward way to reduce carbon emissions is to switch to using renewable energy sources like wind power, solar panels, or nuclear energy instead of relying on fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas. Another method is to improve manufacturing efficiency so that we use less energy from the beginning and also generate less waste in the process. Minimizing waste is very important because when waste is broken down by microorganisms like decomposers, it often releases methane gas, which is another potent greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. Governments can also play an essential role by introducing new regulations, passing laws, or applying taxes to companies based on the quantity of greenhouse gases they release into the atmosphere. Additionally, there is an innovative technology called carbon capture that can trap the carbon dioxide produced when fossil fuels are burned and prevent it from being released into the air. This captured carbon can then be stored deep underground inside rock formations such as disused oil wells, where it will not escape into the environment. Unfortunately, despite all of these promising ideas, putting them into action is far from easy. For instance, renewable energy can still be more expensive to produce and implement than traditional fossil fuels, and our entire global economy is heavily built on fossil fuel infrastructure, which makes switching over extremely complicated and time-consuming. At the same time, many governments worry that placing the environment as their top priority might lead to economic difficulties, especially if the industries that currently power their economy are affected. This fear of economic consequences also makes it extremely hard for countries to come to global agreements on climate change, since no country wants to risk harming its own economy unless they are completely confident that all the other countries will also commit to doing the same thing. This lack of trust and coordination slows down progress even further. However, governments are not the only ones responsible for change. Every single individual also has a part to play by becoming more aware of their own consumption habits and being willing to make adjustments to their daily lifestyle choices, whether it means using public transport more often, reducing energy usage, recycling more consciously, or choosing more sustainable products. These individual changes can add up to make a significant difference over time. If adopted widely, enough small actions can lead to a big impact and will be essential if we are to have any hope of avoiding the most severe consequences of climate change. Anyway, that concludes our explanation of carbon footprints for today. We hope you found this helpful and informative, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next video.